Welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to resilience, business continuity, disasters, anything that helps you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I am the only Alex Fullick there. I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything I get. Today's topic, we're going to talk about security and operational resilience. And today's guest might look familiar because we've actually did in the summertime, correct me if I'm wrong, a webinar together with James Green and a couple of other, John Luisi and Daniela Parker. We did a webinar, and I want to welcome to the show today, Steve Hindle. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Alex. Great to be here.
Great to have you again, because this will be kind of, in a way, your second appearance. At least me, second appearance. Now, I know you and I have talked back and forth, and I know what you do and things like that, but could you take a minute and talk about yourself? Tell us what you do and how you got into what you do.
Sure. Increasingly brief cliff notes. How about that? I've been working in security, compliance, resilience, and business continuity now for just over 2 decades, and I don't want to date myself any more than that. I broke into the security field after working in operations and doing a lot of consultancy work, and then moving into IT and building foundational IT architecture for large public companies and their brands. And I worked within the BPO industry. So I was 25 years in the BPO industry. The reason for that is because every day was different. We had over 400 top tier Fortune 500, 150 clients, household brand names that you all recognize, use, and know every day. And to build the architecture to support those clients, every single one was dedicated. So that means every single piece of architecture was different. As I moved into more of a security and operational role, I was then responsible for securing 400 different pieces of architecture for 400 different companies. So it meant that every day was just a little bit different. And we were all over the world. We were in 70 odd locations in over 45 countries, which means that as you progress through all of that, with about 160,000 people, there's a lot that can happen. There's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot that can go right. And of course, there's all of the relevant risks and controls that go around that. Since 2018, I've led crisis management. You mentioned James Green earlier. James Green worked with me with the Arab Spring uprising, the Fukushima nuclear disaster, and we've led globally disruptive crisis response for over 70 massive BCP and cyber resilience impacting efforts since 2018. So that's a lot in anybody's terms. It's not necessarily when you've got breach experience as well. 2 ransomware incidents, again, public company SEC filings, nothing I'm telling you isn't public knowledge. Nobody wants that on their resume. Employers like to see it in a candidate, but you never really want to have to go through that. But I've been there and unfortunately done it. So it's been an interesting journey, to say the least.
Well, great. I'm glad it brought you here today so that we can chat.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm a big fan of knowledge share, because the community, the cybersecurity community, the resilience community, the business continuity community, they've all been very good to me throughout my career. I've learned a lot working with professionals like James, like yourself, listening, learning. I'm always an avid learner. And I think that it's my opportunity now, with the experiences I've had, to give back as much as I can. And I've been the CIO and CISO in several different companies and organizations. I work now with 2 fintechs. I work in the application development space, the AppSec space, and I advise cybersecurity companies. I advise companies who are doing accounting fraud, algorithm detection. I'm a big fan of disruption, and I always look for something that makes a difference in the world that I can hopefully lend my expertise to. So very grateful for the opportunity to chat, Alex.
Great. Not too many people look forward to disruption. I have to add that. Not too many.
Oh, you've got to be into it. You've got to be a little bit of a punk rock fan to to be okay with disruption, because disruption is how we change, right? Most of the innovations in technology have happened because of disruptive events. We would never have made it to the moon if it wasn't for the atrocities of war, which spurred innovation, right? I mean, that's the nature of it. And I think that's really, it's an important context for any professional to have. It's like you shouldn't shy away from the hard things, the crises, because that's how you really learn and grow. You never learn from your successes. You learn from your challenges. You learn from the hard times. You don't learn when it's easy.
But that seems to go against what a lot of people see. We're already way off our agenda here, which is fine. But that already goes against what most people want. They don't want to be faced with disruption. They don't want to encounter or face their fears, whether that be on an organizational, community, or individual level. So how do you go about changing that mindset then to know that when you do experience something bad, you can learn from it? It's an opportunity. It's not something negative. Even if the situation is negative itself, there's something there you can learn and grow from.
That's absolutely my mantra. So I mean, I said earlier that one of the organizations that I worked for in my history was a large public company, 160,000 people. My approach to technology and security is inherently people focused. I led a team of over 60 individuals all around the world, several of which still work with me today as consultants for my own company that I run when I'm doing the advisory work globally. To enable the global reach that I have. You have to have a culture, and this is something that drives me really to my core. You have to have a culture that empowers people to fail. You can't do that by, you just turn around in a team meeting and say, okay, guys, I want you all to just, don't be afraid of screwing up, right? You can't say that and then hold people to account for their mistakes in a negative manner. We have to encourage people to fail, especially as leaders. You have to encourage your team to take risks. You have to encourage your team to take responsible risks, not be afraid of failure, because if you fail quickly, fail fast, learn from that, because it'll catapult you forwards much quicker than it would have done if you'd have just sat there and taken the safe option. So one of our employees in my North America team a long time ago, we're going back like 5 years. 5 years in security seems like an age. They would suffer from analysis paralysis because they wanted something to be perfect. To deliver a result, the result had to be perfect in their mind. And that resulted in analysis paralysis. It resulted in the deliverable being delayed with a lack of communication as to what the delays were. And when we finally got down to it, and we sat down with this team member and we dived into, what was taking so long, why did they feel like it was better not to deliver a result than to deliver a result that probably wasn't as good as what they were trying for, what they were aiming for, but at least it was delivered. At least it was done. Because then we can then provide feedback, constructive feedback. Okay, this is not quite where we want it. You're early, so let's make these adjustments. Go away, come back with the feedback, and it's 100 times better than it was if you'd have just tried and focused on perfection and not got there. So that culture has to come 100% from the top. And that's the same with what we're talking about today, Alex, about the operational resilience side, right? It has to be culturally driven. I've left organizations and I've left roles because of my strong moral compass and the way that I believe people have to be treated, and the way that an organization, I believe, has to look after their people, encourage their people, grow their people. I'm happy to say, quite proud to say that, I've made changes in my career when I've seen a culture that isn't really aligned with my North Star. So that's encourage people to fail, be constructive, make sure that you're not setting the bar too high. If people see your work product and they think your work product as a leader is just phenomenal, doesn't start that way. We start with something that is truly imperfect. Michelangelo, right? Looking at a block of stone, he said he just kept carving at the stone until the angel came out. That's one of the things he said when he was asked about, how do you do this amazing sculpture? He's like, I couldn't, I'm crap at this. I just do it until I see it, and that's the nature of refining your craft. People look at a leader and they look at what they are. Maybe they're an analyst, maybe they're 3 or 4 tiers down in the organization. They look at the top and they go, I'm not good enough for that. And they don't try because they don't feel like they can fail forwards.
Is that because sometimes leadership forgets they themselves had to fail to get where they are? So there's a
I think it's
mindset
pride.
that some leaders have where they don't want other people to fail. I don't want you to go through what I went through. So they put this unnecessary pressure, which actually takes away a learning opportunity on their employees.
Absolutely. One of my team, a leader from my Asia Pacific region, he would actively prevent his team from failing. Actively prevent his team from failing because he didn't want them to have to deal with the ramifications of that. And it took a long time because he was we refer to them as type A individuals, but that has a little bit of a negative connotation as well. There was nothing negative about this guy. But he had this driven thing that he wanted everybody in his team to be looked upon as being successful, being perfect, being like, oh, these people, they always deliver good results. That's fine, but it is an iterative process. And if nobody sees that you are helping and coaching your team, then how can you take a break? How can you leave and go on vacation comfortably? Because then your team have to then step up. I mean, it's that whole piece around succession and career planning. They have to step up and they have to go fill that void. And if they look upon you as being perfect, and if your senior leadership or your executive leadership looks down your chain and looks upon those individuals as being perfect, and they don't see the iterative process that goes into that, then at the point where somebody steps away or somebody steps up or succession planning puts somebody into a position that they may not feel like they're ready for because they're afraid of that failure. They're afraid of taking those risks and stepping forwards.
It's kind of, there's good intentions there. Oh, I don't want you to fail.
Nothing but good intentions.
At the same time, it's what's the expression? It's like a double-edged sword.
100%. And that's why it has to be cultural. And it has to be driven from the top. And you as a leader of leaders or, a manager of a team, you have to drive that within your team in every single conversation you have. If you expect perfection, then, or if you're constantly, oh, that's in the wrong place, change that, you really should do that differently, then your team are just they're going to get beaten further and further down. But if you change your language, change your tone, how you approach those conversations makes a world of difference, because then everybody steps up a level instead of working comfortably within what they know that, well, I'll deliver this and my boss will tweak it and it'll be fine. It's got to be a cultural tone. It's got to be a shift that happens at the top that encourages that across your organization. And not everybody's capable of delivering it straight away. It's going to take time.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of building a house where you take forever to deliver something because you can't decide on what color the walls are going to be painted. Yet you haven't even made the decision on what the foundation is going to look like yet.
Totally fair. I love that analogy.
Stop focusing on the wrong spots. And we can't deliver this until we know what color the third bedroom will be. No,
you're exactly right, and that's in cybersecurity as well. If we look at our broad topic of operational resilience, if we imagine that looking at what color are we going to paint the walls, where are we going to put the windows, but you haven't even dug the earth and put the foundations in yet. That's where a lot of people are when it comes to cyber resilience, because they're focusing on, well, if we buy that sofa, right? You haven't even got a house yet, but if we buy that sofa, or if we paint the walls this color, then it will match the sofa. That's what they're like when they're selecting technologies to secure their organization or empower their organization. And yet they're ignoring the foundations, right? It's on sand or marsh, it's in the swamp, right? It's you haven't even got there yet, but you're already picking out the silver bullets that you think will make your organization resilient, right? And there's no focus on people. It's an inherent focus on technology, and you're maybe like 6 months, 6 years down the road, but somebody's selling you a silver bullet, you'll take it. Meanwhile, the foundations are a little bit shaky, a little bit rocky over here.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect spot to end our first segment. We're talking with Steve Hindle today about security and operational resilience, and we will be right back. If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.